Okay, so welcome everyone. Actually, well, can y'all see just the plain screen or are you seeing both?
Seeing your display, your preview screen.
Okay. I think that now y'all can just see the main slide, right?
Yes.
Okay, so welcome everyone to this virtual community meeting to discuss NPA 2024-0008.01. If you haven't done so already, if you could let us know who you are and by typing your name in the chat box, and if you're associated with an organization, if you could provide that information as well. As you know, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the publicinput.com/neighborhood plan amendment cases website. If you do not want your image viewed publicly, please turn off your camera. So as you know, this property is in the Rosewood neighborhood planning area, and Mark Walters will be the meeting facilitator tonight. My name is Maureen Meredith. I am the Plan Amendment Case Manager, and Jonathan Tomko is the Zoning Case Manager, but he will not be participating in the meeting tonight. The agenda, I will go over basic case information, guidelines for group discussion, how to participate in this process, why is there a plan amendment application, what is a future land use map. After my presentation, Leah Bojo, the applicant's agent, will give a presentation, then we will open the meeting to the Q&A. So the plan amendment case information is the property address is 2600 East Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Is 1.99 acres. Again, the case number is NPA 2024-0008.01. Project name is 2600 East Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. The request is to change the future land use map from civic to mixed use land use. The owner is CTMS Holdings, LLC. The agent is Leah M. Bojo from Drenner Group. The zoning case information is the property address is 2600 East Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, and again, it's 1.99 acres. Case number is C1420240111. Same project case name. The zoning request is to change the property from GOVCONP, which is General Office District, Vertical Mixed Use Building, Conditional Overlay Neighborhood Plan, to GRMUV DB90NP, which is Community Commercial District, Mixed Use District, Vertical Mixed Use Building, Density Bonus 90 Combining District Neighborhood Plan. So some basic guidelines for group discussion. You can type your questions into the chat at any time during this meeting. And then after our presentations, if you'd like to speak, you could raise your hand by clicking the hand symbol on the menu bar. But since there's only a couple participants tonight, we may be more informal in this when it's time to ask questions. If you haven't muted your microphone, if you could do so now to cut down on any background noises, should there be any. And if we get multiple questions that are are touching upon the same topic, they may just be grouped together. And as usual, we ask people to be respectful to each other during the meeting. Here is the link again to where the meeting will be posted tomorrow morning. You can email me or Jonathan with any questions or comments that you have. If you provide written comments, we'll include them in the staff case reports when the cases are scheduled for Planning Commission and City Council. And if you live within 500 feet of the property, when they are scheduled, you'll get that notice in the mail, and it will have the time, location, and instructions for how to participate in the public hearings. So why is there a plan amendment application? Neighborhood plans are adopted by City Council as amendments to the Imagine Austin Comprehensive Plan. The city charter requires zoning changes to be consistent with the comprehensive plan, and most neighborhood plan amendments are changes to a future land use map, and most have an associated zoning application. This map shows the areas in the city that have City Council approved neighborhood plans, and those are shown in blue on the map. These planning areas all have a plan document that has the vision and goals of the planning area, and also a future land use map where the colors on the future land use map represent broad land uses. For example, the current land use on the property is civic, which is shown in this light blue, and the proposed is mixed use, which is represented by brown. Here's a zoomed in future land use map that again shows the property with the civic land use. This is an aerial photo again that shows the land use on the property. You can see the light blue to the south. You can see the brown with the white dots. That is neighborhood mixed use. The yellow is single family. To the bottom left of the property, you can see brown, which is mixed use. To the left of the property, to the west is single family, and to the north is again the civic land use. Here's a zoning map that shows the existing zoning on the property, which is the GOVCONP, which is General Office Vertical Mixed Use Building Conditional Overlay Neighborhood Plan. To the north, you can see that property is zoned multifamily 3. To the south, you have some, looks like some office, which is the pink, and SF3, which is the yellow, and then to the west, the SF3 Historic District zoning. This is just a Google map screenshot that shows the property and some of the surrounding uses. Screenshot from Google Maps that shows the front of the building. This is the Imagine Austin Growth Concept Map that shows the regional centers, town centers, neighborhood centers. And you can see the property is within the East MLK Station Neighborhood Center, and it is also has frontage on East MLK Junior Boulevard, which you see with the white line with the brown edging, and that designates it as a Imagine Austin activity corridor. This shows some of the public transportation around the property. You see some running along East MLK Boulevard and along is that on Airport? Excuse me. And that ends my presentation, and I'll stop sharing my screen.
Oh, excuse me. Hello. I'm Leah Bojo here representing the applicant, and let me just pull up my screen as well. Oh. All right, so I am here, like I said, from Drenner Group, representing the applicant. Tamaria Davis, who's also on, is helping me with this case. So I will just kind of run through the slides, and then, and if there are any questions, obviously at the end, we can talk about those. So we're here to talk about 2600 East Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Just to start off, just to make sure everybody knows we're all talking about the same spot in the context. This is the subject parcel there at the corner of Cedar and East MLK, kind of a piece out of Campbell Elementary School. And then I wanted to sort of highlight all of the uses and things that are walkable and bikeable. And actually, this is one of the best parts of town as far as transit goes as well, that this site is situated within. And here we have a sort of a zoomed in view just to see what's on the site. It is currently, the structure is used as a doctor's office. Mr. McBride just shared some information about the building that I'm not as familiar with, but what we do know is that right now it is being used as a doctor's office. It's just barely under 2 acres in size. Like I said, medical office is there today. And then this is just sort of a summary. I know y'all know what's nearby, but this is a summary for when we go to commission and council. So here is the zoning and future land use map amendments. So you can see that today it's zoned GOV CONP, like Maureen noted. We're requesting to change the base district to GR, which is just allows a little bit broader range of uses on the site, like small restaurants and coffee shops and things like that, retail. And then we are also proposing to add the DB90 overlay. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that means for anyone who's not familiar. And then that would also mean a change on the zoning, on the future land use map from civic to mixed use. So there is currently, the current zoning was put in place in 1995. And it does currently have a conditional overlay, and the overlay, we are proposing to remove at this overlay, although we're certainly open to discussing other overlays if you would like. This overlay limits the trips to 2,000, which is not something that the transportation department does anymore. And also limits some of the uses. It prohibits business or trade school, business support services, restaurant limited, offsite accessory parking, and personal services. So we would like to, not that we're necessarily trying to do any of those, particularly like the business and trade school and things like that, but we would like the opportunity to be able to use, for example, restaurant limited, personal services, hair salons, and things like that. To be incorporated into the site. So that's why we are requesting at this early stage to remove the CO. So this is just, we're at the very beginning of what will assuredly be a long process. So what we're estimating at this particular time is 300 units. And then by participating in the DB90 program, as I'm sure a lot of y'all know, there would be a requirement for affordable housing to be on the site. If it's rental, it would be either 10 or 12% at either 50 or 60% MFI. And if their units are for sale, it would be 12% at 80% MFI. And then there's also a frontage requirement. And so we would comply with that. We're not asking for any kind of waiver or flexibility there. And then there are streetscape requirements as well that come along with it, which we would certainly participate in. And then we just looked, we always look kind of big picture at the neighborhood plan. It does look like Rosewood has some ideas about making the neighborhood a great place to live, things that promoting commercial uses that meet the needs of the residents, the character of the neighborhood, affordable housing, of course. So we feel like this proposal would meet some of those goals. Also meeting land use goals from Imagine Austin about mixing uses and creating places where people can live and work and shop and things close together. And with that, I will put my information up and ask if anyone has any questions that we should talk about. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. So you can either type them in the chat, or since it's a small group, we can be a little more informal, like Maureen says. So Gilbert Rivera, could you unmute and ask your question, please?
It's actually Jane and Gilbert
Jane.
Rivera, and it's Jane, and it's Jane who has the question.
Okay, Jane, ask away.
My question is, what exactly do you propose to build?
We are proposing to do mixed use residential over retail. Some version of that. It is, a 2-acre site, so we haven't gotten to the point of design yet, but that would be the idea. Residential with the affordable component over a first floor pedestrian oriented use.
So how many floors are you thinking?
Well, DB90 would allow up to 90 feet. I don't know that we would get all the way to 90. I think often, as I'm sure y'all have heard, buildings really only make sense to get up to 75 or 80 feet, but that would be what we'd be talking about. So that's probably like 7 stories would be my best guess. If they build all the way up to that top.
And And you are surrounded by what is still at this moment considered single-family housing, mostly older housing with more elderly people in it. Isn't that not correct?
That is correct. We are, I don't know about the age of the people that live there, but we are, back to that other slide, but
Thank you.
we do know that we are surrounded by, maybe this is a better one, by single
And-
family to the west and to the south.
And do you have any thoughts of reducing the impact of a minimum 7-story building on those properties by stepping it back or anything like that?
We're certainly open to talking about that. And I would just say it would be a maximum 7-story building, not a minimum, just to make sure we're all saying the same thing. But yeah, we are open to conversations about things like that for sure. This is just the very first, as you know, I reached out to you a few weeks ago and we haven't had a chance to talk in more detail, but yeah, we're just at the very beginning. So we're open to all kinds of conversation.
Difficult for neighborhood-based groups is that y'all ask for zoning upgrades before we really know what it is you're going to do. Just so you know.
I understand.
And this is the first time many of us have even heard about any activity going to take place on this site. And I'm Barry McBride, in case no one sees my name there. And I have been very active with this neighborhood and with this site for a number of years. And it has a very, very important historical significance, as I mentioned, to the city of Austin, and was wondering if any of that aspect of it has been taken into consideration at all.
So we have not gotten to that stage yet. And I know it's frustrating, Ms. Rivera, I totally understand. And and it's just sort of a problem with the way that the system works, that the order of things, but we have not, I'm not aware of what you were talking about, Mr. McBride, but we would obviously look into that and have to figure out what that means for the site. It could mean, there's obviously a lot of surface parking here. It could mean all kinds of things to incorporate, components of the site if that's important, or, but this is just the beginning of the conversation. So we would have to, we would want to talk. I'm very interested in talking to you more about what I did send that email just a minute ago before we got started. So I'm very interested in talking with you about those details for sure.
Okay, and also when it comes to the former ownership of the property, I've been in contact with Seton Medical Center as well as the Austin Cancer Center for a number of years about this property. And the last person that I spoke with was Dr. Cox, and I've spoken with him a number of times, and I've met with him on several occasions. And he did mention that nothing would take place without my knowledge because of the importance of the history of the site and my active involvement in preserving the history of this site. And up until a couple of weeks ago, this was the first that I've had any knowledge that this kind of activity with a set of multifamily units was even being considered to be placed on this site. Not even from Dr. Cox himself. And is there a reason for that?
I don't know Dr. Kotz, so I don't know. I'm working for someone who is potentially going to buy the site. So I don't know about those conversations and I'm not working directly on the sale part of it. I'm just working for the folks that are continuing this. So again, I hope we can continue those conversations, but I don't have an answer for you right now. I'm sorry. Okay,
then my last question is this. Can I get some idea of who the owners are and who the potential purchasers are? Who is CTMS Holdings Incorporated?
I don't know who that is. That's the prior owner. I can tell you that the developer that we're talking to here is they just changed their name. They're called Notional now, but they had recently been called Heartwood, and so you may see that would be an easier way to look them up and find out some of the other things that they've worked on in Austin and in the area.
Okay, now is Heartwood a local company or?
Yes.
Okay, Heartwood. Residential development company, or is that their name?
It's Heartwood RE, I believe. Heartwood Real Estate.
And what did you say?
Sorry,
what did you say the previous owner was, or the previous name was? I'm sorry.
Oh, they're called Notional, but up until recently it's the same group, but they renamed.
Okay.
They were called Heartwood, and so I just was saying that if you look up Heartwood, you're more likely to find nearby cases in that name more than Notional because they just changed.
And is a sale pending? And if so, Is it at a title company right now, pending closing, or what is the status of the purchase and sale transaction?
I don't know that because I'm not working on that, but I can see what I can find out for you. Of
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
course.
I'll chime in. I'm Bridget Ground. I'm also a resident within 500 square feet. And I was wondering if anyone can explain, because I'm similarly concerned about like the compatibility with the adjacent local historic district, the adjacent elementary school site. In one of the slides, it was showing a future land use on the elementary school site as a multifamily zoning. Can you explain to me what your uses,
Sure.
how those work?
So we're not working on the school at all. That's a separate lot. It's just the one that's next to us. And schools across Austin and probably across a lot of places all have different zoning because you can put a school in any zoning. So whenever, I don't know the history of this site. I know the school's been there for quite a while, obviously. I don't know how long or where it came, how the land was given to the school district, but it's not uncommon for schools to be on land that's zoned all kinds of things because you're allowed to put a school on any kind of zoning. So that's just what that school site happens to have on it.
Okay, thank you. And then I guess a follow-up question to a comment that you made earlier. You know, you talked about being open to talking about lesser floors. This is probably a premature novice question, but it sounds like there is a process where community input will continue. Can you or anyone in this meeting explain kind of the process from here of how things potentially progress with this proposal?
Well, I can tell you, yeah, from my standpoint, I can tell you. So I did reach out to Ms. Rivera a few weeks ago or so when we were getting ready to submit the application, or right after we had submitted maybe or something, to get a meeting. So the one option or one way that we often communicate with neighborhoods and with stakeholders is through the contact team or neighborhood association. So that's, that's usually one of our first calls. So we have plenty of time as well to put that together, whether it's just meeting with a few folks. It doesn't have to be like an organized group. We'll kind of do whatever people would like to talk about how we go from here. So we can talk about all kinds of things, and we would want to hear from you about what you would like. This meeting is obviously a city-sponsored meeting. This is a code requirement, but so you get your notice from that. But any other, and my info is here on the end of this. And so any other groups that would like to talk, or individuals or whatever, we're more than happy to do that. And I hope you'll if your neighbors are talking, let them have my contact information, all that. Like, we would like to, be in communication with people for sure. Oh, you just muted.
What percentage? You said some will be affordable.
Sure.
Define some. Is that 10%, 20%, 30%? And then what affordability?
So this is, I don't know if you can see my screen, but this is the affordability that DB 90 would require. So 10 or 12 at either 50, 60, or 80, depending on whether it's rental or ownership. I don't think we've made a decision yet on whether it would be rental or ownership, but these are the requirements. So you would at least have this level of affordability, assuming that we use the zoning.
And historically, when developers speak about affordable units, they're talking about 1 bedroom or no bedroom units. How many bedrooms are going to be because a large majority of people in our neighborhoods are families. They're not single new pilgrims coming into Austin. There were families that have been here a long time and have been seeking affordable units that they can bring families into. So are we talking about small units with no bedrooms, or what size are we talking about?
We don't have a unit mix yet for this project, but I can certainly talk to my clients about what the mix that they're thinking of is, and we can talk about what we all think that the area would benefit from.
And what do you see the rents going for those units?
I don't have that number in front of me, but I'd be happy to email you. Maybe Jane, I could email you the current rent chart so you could see what the rents would be at 50 and 60% MFI, if that would be helpful. Because it's
Yes.
set by HUD each year, you know, so like there's one that just came out in June. So we'd be happy to send you that so that you can see,
Okay,
you can see what it would be like.
Yeah, those are very important data that needs to be understood, and if not in concrete, already in the works, because for what you're asking for is for people's neighborhood support, and it's hard to support something that half of the questions you ask can't be answered.
Sure, we'll do our best to get you answers for sure. I understand.
And also like to get a copy of that email with the unit mix as well as the anticipated rental prices. And I'm Barry McBride again, so if I could get that as
Sure.
well. Is it
Got it.
possible to also get a full copy of your entire presentation sent via email so we can have it?
Yes.
Because there's a lot of information and it's all very important. It would be good to have it, you know, in my personal files here.
Sure, no problem at all.
to
Okay.
everybody, please.
To everyone, right. Thank you.
For sure. And,
So Gilbert,
and Bridget, if you'd like that information as well, just put your info in the chat and we'll make sure we'll get a little list going for this project and we'll just share everything with everybody.
The other thing that I was going to say before I accidentally muted myself is that I think I'm technically in the Chestnut planning, like the Chestnut neighborhood contact team would be my contact team. It's adjacent to the site. So if
Okay.
it's possible to leave in their contacts, I think that would be very helpful.
Sure. No problem.
You're the neighborhood contact.
Chestnut.
Yeah, the Chestnut has their own.
When it comes to the historical preservation aspects of the site, is it too early to talk to you about if any thought has been given to historically preserving the existing structure that is still on the property? Because that structure has been there for well over 50 years, and it is a very, very historic, very significant property to the neighborhood. And up until
Yeah,
about 8 or 9 months ago, it was fully operational.
Right. I
And
think it's
it-
not too early. It's definitely not too early. I think we have some, I'd like to talk to you, you know, offline. I'm not that I don't want to share with everybody, but, you know, I'd love to hear more about that from you and do a little digging on our front. And then it's definitely not too early to start having the conversation. I'm just, you know, we just need to see where it's going to go. But absolutely, we should talk about that.
Yes, all right.
Okay.
Thank you.
but Gilbert had his hand up, and then we can circle back if we need to talk about that. So
No, I'm
Gilbert
fine.
or Jane, Gilbert or Jane.
It was Gilbert and he went ahead and asked his question.
I had to, I apologize. I
Okay.
broke in there. Sorry.
Okay. So does
I do
anybody
have-
else? So
I do have.
go ahead.
On the historical part of it,
Yes.
I don't
Go.
think the developer is gonna go out of his or her way to try to figure out whether it's historical or not. It's gonna be up to the neighborhoods to do that, because it's important that we clarify whether it's qualified for historical. And there are several ways it can be done. And I think that if the neighborhood is gonna do that, we should start doing it now and get before the historical commission, so it can be brought up before the city of Austin's staff that work on historical designations. Also, Travis County has the Travis County Historical Commission that works within the city of Austin proper, because we are within Travis County, and they do work with neighborhoods and individuals that are looking at making a building historical, and the neighborhood or the persons need to apply, make that application, and the application process for the county starts, basically it's opened in August. And so the application process is currently open. So if that's going to be done, it needs to be done quickly. And unfortunately, the whole process takes, for the neighborhood to have it declared historical, it takes through the county. I'm not sure about the city, but it takes a couple of years to get all of that done. So if anybody's interested, my name is Gilbert Rivera. I am a member of the Travis County Historical Commission, and we do underutilized, I think it's called Under-
Underutilized.
underutilized historical sites. And so if there's we can start that process to try to get it done. And what generally happens is that we fill out an application, put in all the information that we have, and it goes to the Travis County Commission, who reviews it, asks a bunch of questions, and once everything is said and done, we send it over to the state for historical designation, and they review it for accuracy and so forth. And if they approve it, then it comes back to us and we negotiate the narrative that would go on the historical marker. And the markers are are the kind of markers you see all over the place on the interstate, on roads, farm roads, and on where you stop and read a marker, and you see them at the Capitol, you see them around town. And once the applicant and the state agree, the hard part is that the applicant usually puts in several thousand words to describe the importance of the facility or the importance of a person that may have lived in a home or worked in that facility. And it has to be reduced down to 280 words to fit into the historical marker. Then it goes, once the state approves it and the county approves it, then it goes to the refinery. And my narrative right now is about 3 years long. What I just described takes about 3 years or more. So
if there are people already working on this, Barry?
We've already, as I mentioned earlier, ma'am, we have already done that. It took us several years to get the designation. The historical marker is already being prepared now. I did the work personally myself. I did literally all of the work, and it took years to get that done. The markers are now being prepared. The designations are in full effect, and we're now moving ahead with getting on the National Registry of Historic Places. So all of that is already moving forward and has been in the works for years.
Yeah, and it's important, sir, to also make sure that it is the right type of marker, because I've worked on markers for other neighborhoods. For example, the Rainy Street neighborhood, we all know is now a bunch of condominiums, and it was a historic Mexican-American neighborhood. We had it designated historic. It was a city designation. Then the city of Austin decided to rezone it into downtown business district, and that historical marker did not qualify for designation as historic, because it was now a downtown business district, and they took the marker away and basically bulldozed all the houses down. So we need to make sure that the marker will withstand any kind of attempt to raise the building with a marker or not. That's a very important point that people don't understand, that if it's a wrong marker, they can just ignore it and move forth and bulldozing a building down.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
I hope we can, again, I just learned of this tonight from you, Mr. McBride. So, we have some learning to do and some talking to do and everything, but I do just want to say that I hope we can work together on this and not.
I'm sure we can. I'm sure we can.
Great.
And with
Okay,
us too as well.
Yeah. So does anybody else have any, with working with Gilbert and Jane as well?
Oh, of course. Yes. Everybody, everyone here and everyone for sure.
So does anybody else have any questions for the applicant?
No, sir.
No? Well, with that,
a
go ahead.
timeline. Is there a timeline on completing the project?
No.
Okay, so we're not that far ahead yet.
No. We're just beginning. So we haven't. Yeah, we're just have the zoning, which is the first application submitted, and it's just been submitted it's in staff review. This is one of the steps. So yeah, we're at the very beginning, and so yeah, we'll have plenty of time to keep talking and probably move ahead.
Can you recap the process of just that stage, the zoning request?
Oh, sure.
City. What happens? Like, what is that time for
So
approval.
I'll tell you that and then Maureen and Mark can step in if they have anything to add or change. So we submitted our application in July, I think early July. And we will, so now it's in staff review. This meeting is part of the staff's review of the neighborhood plan amendment. It's 2 applications, zoning and neighborhood plan, but they move concurrently. So it's kind of, they just move together as one item. So once, now that we've had this meeting, staff will go back and review and make a recommendation for or against. And then after they make a recommendation, then we'll be scheduled for planning commission hearing. They make a recommendation as well. And then once they've made theirs, then it goes on to city council for approval, which can take as many as 3 different meetings, depending on how quickly they move, if they do 1 reading at a time or they do 3. So, usually the process takes 8 to 10 to 12 months from what we started about a month ago or a month and a half ago. And it can also take, if we have more things to work out, it can take longer. If something's really straightforward, it can go a little faster, but it's not a fast process. And we don't have any other applications submitted at the same time. We're doing these one at a time.
So are there opportunities for staff input to the city review beyond this meeting? Is this it?
I'll let Maureen take that one, but no, you have more opportunities.
No, this is a code requirement that for every neighborhood plan amendment that we have this community meeting, and this is a code requirement. So that's why we're having the meeting. Following this, Maureen can go into this since we're pretty much winding down. You can go into the process part of it, Maureen, and what comes next and how this is going to be playing out, at least from the staff side.
Right. So I will meet with my team next week to talk about the plan amendment request, and I'll report back to them the questions, concerns, and the discussion at tonight's meeting. I'll report all this after we make our recommendation on the request to change the future land use map from civic to mixed use. I'll report all this information to the zoning team, and that's Jonathan Tomko. He will meet with his team to make a recommendation on the zoning request. As I understand from this discussion, there's going to be possibly more meetings with Leah and y'all. Once we hear from you guys as far as if the case is ready to move forward, then we let y'all know when the proposed planning commission hearing date is. And we let you know what would be the deadline if you wanted to include in staff case reports a letter of recommendation. So these will all be combined in the staff case report that goes before Planning Commission and City Council. So that's about it.
Also, I'd like to add our part, ours being the long range planning, the neighborhood plan side of it, tends to go a little faster. The zoning case managers, they get to their cases as they're submitted in the order that they're submitted. So we usually make our decision well in advance, but we do coordinate that once they've made their decision. So just let you know that we might have a recommendation, a preliminary one next week. We have to wait until the zoning has made theirs before we release our formal recommendation. Is that right, Maureen?
Yeah.
I just said it. I want to make sure I'm correct.
No, that's correct.
So maybe, I guess 2 other things that I want to chime in on, or, just in case it's useful at this stage to take into consideration. One is that intersection, the MLK at Cedar Avenue intersection, is one that I feel is dangerous often because people speed along MLK. Sometimes I think because of the way that there's sort of like a hill at that intersection, and the way that if the sun is rising or setting and the sun is in someone's eyes, like people run the light there very often. So I just want to throw that in for whatever it's worth. I know that we're kind of very early in the process and it's probably not directly related to zoning, but if there are design considerations or parking considerations or whatever, I would very much hope that anything would help to ease traffic there rather than to contribute to how dangerous I feel that intersection can be. And then just kind of want to observe, again, I already kind of voiced my concern about the compatibility with this historic neighborhood immediately adjacent to the site, the elementary school immediately adjacent to the site, like would very much hope that it would be a complementary use that respects the historic, the heritage of that neighborhood and the young children in that area, like would hope that any development would be complementary to that, as well as, Manor Road, parallel to MLK is where a lot of commercial activity takes place. So this idea to me that, you kind of shift from that commercial activity on Manor Road into a more residential civic use as you move into the neighborhood is something that I value personally and would hope to see maintained. So I hope that the scale would be, if this is approved, that the scale would be complementary and compatible with just the nature of the neighborhood.
And what I can do when I report back to Jonathan, the neighborhood planning team discussion, I also report back to them the questions and concerns from this meeting. So I'll include that with my information to him.
Okay, that's lovely. Thank you.
Hey, so Maureen, you went through the process and you had the 500 feet and all that, the 3 hearings.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah.
Okay.
So when it is scheduled for Planning Commission, City Council, people who live within 500 feet will get the notice in the mail. As y'all know, it hasn't been scheduled yet, but when it has, you'll get the notice, or you can periodically reach out to me to sort of get a heads up before the notices go out, so you can start getting an idea of your own schedule as far as when the hearings might be done.
I'm also
So
happy to
Leah,
communicate about that as we move through the process, let you know when we have hearings scheduled and things like that.
So Leah, do you have any? It's fine. Do you have any parting comments that you'd like to make before we end tonight's
I don't
meeting?
think so.
Okay.
Nope, I think I'm
Well,
good.
I would like
Thank you.
to.
Look forward to
I'd like to
continued
extend.
communication.
Yeah, really appreciate everybody who took some time out to find out about this, and I think this was a very productive and information full meeting, and I think looks like you might have some conversations in the future. So with that, I'd like to wish you a good evening and get back to our regular scheduled lives.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.